that first time you step into like Zelda Breath of the Wild and you come out of the cave and you see that beautiful open world, dopamine hit, right? Oh man, that's awesome. Oh man, that's so cool. Yeah. And what you have to learn to do is you have to learn to create your own dopamine hits.
Hey everyone, today I have a great guest. I have Micael Berger, aka Berger Games. He's been a fixture inside the niche of gaming on Instagram for the last 2 years, doing the very common work of a social media personality. But recently, he has been adding aspects of his professional day-to-day job as a licensed social worker into his content. Mike also trains other mental health professionals in how to have conversations about suicide, crisis de-escalation, and motivational interviewing. Recently, he's been creating YouTube videos on the intersection of gaming and mental health, building courses, teaching gamers how to take advantage of their psychology and gamify their life. He's also been appearing on podcasts just like this one. Now, I brought him here because, I think his reels are really funny. Like, I just love them. But apart from that, I think that, and I want to bring like more professionals who actually help gamers and nerds either to gamify or to address the issues that we typically have, because they may not be the most, let's say, common ones. Or at least I consider that nerds are weird. I consider myself weird, and therefore we have weird problems, right? So it's great to bring people in who understands what we go through and our own challenges. So Mike, 100%. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
So how do you see the intersection between like gaming and mental health? Like how does that work for you?
I think it's in two ways, because you could think about it like, what is the intersection between gaming and how it affects mental health and how mental health affects gaming? You could think of it in that way. And then you could also think about it over here, which is what part of what I'm attempting to do, which is how does gaming help us to understand our mental health? And how do the stories inside games, the characters inside them, help us to understand our psychology? So I'm trying to do both, which is a challenge. But yeah, there's kind of two ways you could look at that perspective.
So speaking about the first one, I understand like when you said how gaming affects our mental health. I mean, clearly we get stressed out if we're losing, if we can't get past the level.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Like how your mental health affects gaming. What do you mean by that?
So let's put it this way, like, let's say for a second, let's call the game itself the stimuli, right? The stimuli in any case, whether whatever the activity is that you're doing, you have a relationship to it. And it comes from your psychology that already exists, right? So, and when you engage in that activity, your psychology and your relationship to that is going to come out. So not every single person who jumps on of Call of Duty multiplayer is going to rage quit, right? So some guys that go on there are like the most pleasant people you have ever met, the calmest individual. And they're like, yeah, good game, man. I'll see you next time, right? And that is a relationship between the stimuli and your already existing psychology. So what I think a lot of politicians often, if we go into history, failed to realize when things like Mortal Kombat came out, if you can remember, and politicians in the US were very upset about it and absolutely hated the game, is that Mortal Kombat doesn't inherently make you a dangerous or violent person, right? There is a relationship there that exists between the person and the game. So, and this has been found through research, right? Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of what I mean by that.
Right. I don't remember Mortal Kombat and that issue. I remember. Do you remember Carmageddon? It was a game.
No, you know what? I was also thinking of the game Postal. Yeah.
I don't know about Postal.
Postal was bad too. Postal was inherently, I think, created for with a maybe insidious idea. I don't know if they had great intentions behind like creating the game. It was
Right.
just like shooting up people. It wasn't good.
Well, Carmageddon
but-
was driving cars and running people over.
Okay. Yeah.
And there was like this big issue. Like, I mean, there was like blood everywhere, and you got points depending on like who you ran over. And then they fixed it and said, "They're zombies," and changed the red of the blood to green. Done. Fixed. And now it's okay.
And now it's okay. Yeah. You're not killing people, you're killing zombies. It's totally fine.
You're saving the human race. I can totally see that. I was actually thinking, so I'm now rereading the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. I'm not sure if you've about fixed mindset and growth mindset. And something that I was always thinking is, how come gamers who are used to seeing a character leveling up, and they know how much work it takes, and that you have to do things over and over, and they build resilience because they have to like fight the same boss and learn how to do different things. That is growth mindset, 100%. But when it comes to their real life, they don't apply it.
That's a great question. And a lot of it, this is going to, for some, if you already know this might seem oversimplified, but I think this is, I say that, and I think most mental health professionals will, but I don't think the general public always talks about this.
Most likely not, yeah.
It all comes down to like when you're getting the reward, when you're getting the dopamine. Because if I'm working on a project at work and it takes, let's say like the whole project is going to take me like a total of 36 working hours, that's a lot, right? That's going to feel so heavy, and that's going to feel so difficult to tackle and get into. And you're probably going to procrastinate, and you're probably going to wait and wait and wait before you do it. And before you know it, there's only a week left, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna try to bang all of this out in 1 week, 36 hours of work. Here we go, right? And instead, what video games usually allow you to do, the good ones at least, they'll give you small dopamine hits along the way. So what gamers have to kind of start to relearn, and they don't really teach you this stuff in school. They might if you went to like a fancy private school, but we're not really taught how to do things like create sustainable habits. They just kind of expect that you're going to do your homework, right? And we just go along with that, and some of us get it and some of us don't, and some of us have to learn it along the way. But let me go back for a second and say that, so what the game does is, if it's good, you finish the tutorial pretty quickly, right? Great, you're level 1, you're out in the world. That first time you step into like Zelda Breath of the Wild, and you come out of the cave and you see that beautiful open world, dopamine hit, right? Oh man, that's awesome. Oh man, that's so cool. First time you get the glider, boom. Whoa, I'm flying through the air. This is so cool. First time you hit that rock monster, like one of the first bosses, you might fail a couple times, and then you realize, okay, there's crystals on his back that I need to get. And all of this is happening, but the game itself is creating dopamine hits along the way. So even if it takes you 80 hours to complete Zelda Breath of the Wild, meanwhile, you're getting all of these dopamine hits. You get all of these different quests, all these different side quests. Oh, I got a new horse. Oh, that horse has bigger, like a larger pool of stamina. You don't get that with like just this 36-hour thing. It looms over you. Yeah. And what you have to learn to do is you have to learn to create your own dopamine hits. You have to learn to to break it down. You have to learn to do things like the Pomodoro technique, which is, okay, I'm just going to work on this for 20 minutes. It doesn't matter how much I do. I'm just going to work on it for 20 minutes. It doesn't matter what the quality is. I'm just going to tackle this. And that's all I'm going to do for 20 minutes. And that's it. And then I'll go reward myself by playing Breath of the Wild.
For 3 hours.
Yeah, for 3 hours. Exactly. But when you do that, your brain starts to realize, first of all, you're breaking the procrastination cycle. So that no longer is occurring because you're stepping in. And as soon as you step in, your brain's first 90 seconds after you procrastinate, man, I'm really going off here. But when you procrastinate and you eventually get to that task, the longer you've procrastinated, the more intense you're going to feel the first 90 seconds of what you're doing. So if you procrastinate for like 3 weeks on this project and it's been looming over you and man, you have anxiety about it, you have stress when you think about it, but you've avoided it, you've avoided it. The first 90 seconds of that is going to feel like you're almost in pain because your brain registers that as pain, like actually registers it as pain. So the Pomodoro technique of doing it for just 20 minutes breaks through that. Right. And then you do the end part too, which is making sure to celebrate that and be like, heck yeah. Like, I can't believe I just did that. Like, let's go again. Like, that was awesome. Like, let's go. You know, no matter how much work you think you did or didn't do, you did it. Right. Yeah. So long answer there.
No, that's perfect. And actually that's pretty much what I'm doing with clients. So I insist. So basically the idea with my clients is, let's say that you're, I don't know, afraid to ask someone out, right?
Yeah.
I'll be like, okay, asking someone out doesn't have to be different than inviting a friend to hang out.
Yeah.
Like, unless you want to be very explicit that it's a date, there's not really any difference. So, for example, I'll be like, okay, are you comfortable like inviting a group of people for an activity where you invite 10, maybe 4 say yes or 2, right? And like, okay, when you do that, give yourself 1 experience point straight after you do it, like right after you do it. So that, like you're saying, like you get the dopamine right at that moment. And that's one, because it's not too anxiety inducing, right? Then if you ask one person to hang out one-on-one, you're risking rejection, because like one thing is like, okay, out of 10 people, do at least 2 want to hang out? But if it's just one-on-one, it's either 100% right or 100% wrong. So if you do that, give yourself 3 points, regardless of the outcome. The outcome doesn't matter. The point is to get used to inviting and asking. And then if you find someone you like and you ask them out, you give yourself 5 points. But you have to do it straight after. That's the key.
Yeah.
That I find.
Yep. Yeah, that's and I'll be honest. Sometimes when I started to know that, I'd feel kind of stupid because that was always the part of like habit formation that I always struggled with myself, is that sometimes you can kind of feel a little bit stupid when you're trying to like throw a party in your head after you do something like that.
Yeah.
Or another good technique is like go to a mirror and smile in the mirror for like a solid 2 minutes, because it actually releases chemicals in the brain when you do that.
Even without the mirror. Yeah.
Even without the mirror, you're absolutely right. But it kind of feels dumb sometimes, but I'm like, it works. It works.
Like honestly, like the times that I have done things just because I want the points, and even I had a client who we did like 2 sessions. First one, the first week, he said, "There's someone I like, but like I haven't asked her, whatnot." We did the second session. By the third session, he had to get 3 experience points in each of the skills that we had decided. And the following week, he was like, "Hey, can we move the session? Because I haven't been able to do it and I want the points."
Nice.
So the following week, we jump on a call again. And he's like, I asked her out. She said yes.
No way.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Just because like you're going after the points, and it sounds super silly, but it works. And I know that it works especially for games. Like I myself, like so many times I've been like, I don't feel like doing this. I really don't want to do it. Okay, I'll do it for 3 points. So I just go, I'll do it. And maybe I'll fuck it up, you know, like it'll be a complete disaster. Yeah. But I did it. And as soon as I finished doing it, I open my phone, give myself the points, and sometimes I level up. And when I level up, I look back and I'm like, okay, what was I like the level before? Because I think that's also really important, like to see the progress.
Yeah.
In the book Atomic Habits, what's his name? James Clear. Is it James Clear?
Yeah. I think so.
He talks about having a visual representation of how much effort you've put into a habit. He talks about like having a jar with stuff. And I was reading that and I was like, this is an XP bar. Literally. That's what it is. Nothing else, nothing more.
Absolutely. Yep.
So let's just give ourselves XP. That's it. I mean, I love seeing numbers go up. Any number, doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And like, I think too, like there's some apps that are
trying
generally confusing this for people. I don't think that popular psychology and the apps created around them are always getting it right. So let me give you an example. And I think what you're doing is perfect. Like the XP, right? Like that idea is perfect. What you're doing with your clients. Like, for example, there's a general misunderstanding of habit formation out there that like people are obsessed with this idea that you have to do a habit 30 days in a row and then it becomes a habit. And like what happens is that, and this happens constantly with all of those apps that you get on your phone. They're all attached to this idea because someone said it at some point that 30 days, 60 days, whatever, will solidify a habit into existence if you do that in a row. Yeah. Guess what, everyone out there? If you do it 5 days in a row and it drops on the 6th day, you don't go back to zero.
Yeah.
You don't go back to zero.
Yes.
Okay? So that's super important to recognize. Like, if you find, and a lot of people, ironically, if you're attached to that 30, 60 day thing, and you go back to zero, that's actually the thing that causes a lot of people to burn out.
Yeah.
Because now they're like, oh, I need to go back and do all those 5 days over again.
Yeah.
Like I've lost all of those.
Everything.
No, you haven't. They're still there. They're still there. So you're building on something that you've already created. Okay, great. Resilience. Pick yourself back up. Day 7, let's get back on track. But it's not even about starting over. You're still getting that 7th day.
You're continuing.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
And I love that you said that because there's many ways to gamify, right? Like I would say there's infinite ways to gamify. One of the ways is if you don't do it or do it wrong or something bad, you take away points as a punishment.
Got it.
And I was like, I disagree with that because a negative experience is still an experience. And once you got it, you still have it.
Growth mindset. 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Like some dating coaches, they're like, oh, like just go and approach 100 women, or I mean, I hear about women because that's
arbitrary
guy, right?
number.
Yeah. Like go and approach 1,000 and then you'll be cured from whatever. Yeah. I hate those types of goals, especially because like it's really hard for me to find someone that I find attractive and that I like and whatnot. And so, sure, like I have been like, okay, I'm going to go out. I'm going to give myself 1 point for going out. If I find someone and I'm feeling anxious, I'll give myself points. Yeah. But it's not I have to do this religiously every single day. Because some days you just don't feel like it. Or some days it goes wrong. Or some days you are too scared to do it. And that
Yes.
doesn't mean that you lose the points that you gained before. I mean, if you go to World of Warcraft, you just level up your character, then stop playing for 4 years and come back, it's still gonna be there.
It's still going to be there. Yep. I love what you said there about the, like if I go out and I feel anxious, like about, I see someone that's attractive. And like, the funny part is like, if we don't register that right away, so the anxiety or the fear doesn't register, right? Like if we just see someone reading a book and we don't like, kind of think of that person in a romantic way, the anxiety might not be there. And you might say like, oh, hey, I really like that book. Right. And nothing registers because like they're you just don't see them in that way. But I think it's important what you said there. Like when I see someone that's attractive and I start to feel the anxiety, I want your listeners to know that experience in and of itself is an experience.
Yeah.
So you can get points just for doing that, like just for feeling the anxiety, and because your brain thinks, oh, are we really going to approach this person? And when it comes to borrowing a page from anxiety disorders and phobias, when you have a phobia, right, and you turn toward the fear, that's exposure.
Yeah.
And exposure is like the main key treatment to addressing that.
Gradual exposure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even if you are a person who, let's say like you're afraid of needles and you're like getting the flu shot is something that's like really hard for you to do, even if you drive to your CVS or whatever pharmacy you're going to with the intention of getting the shot, that's free exposure therapy. So even if you stop at the door and you turn back, you still got free exposure therapy, and that will lead to it being even more likely to happen again.
Yeah.
So your clients, what you're teaching your clients to do is, even if you don't ask, start with the intention of going out, finding someone that's attractive, and think to yourself, okay, what if I ask them out right now? Feel that anxiety, feel how it makes you feel, and know that anxiety's like not overtaking you. You're okay. Like you're experiencing this and no harm is coming to you.
Yeah.
Right? And even if they say no, like what is the biggest thing that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know. I think that stuff's cool to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. I have found, so I like 2 years ago or maybe a bit more, I started taking dance lessons like salsa, bachata. And I used to do martial arts and I can't anymore physically. So this is kind of like it's a similar interaction, like it's a non-verbal communication. Martial arts is the same.
Yep.
And I made a point to ask anybody that made me nervous to dance, right?
Oh, man. Yeah.
Because in our heads, and this is for any gender, right? I've heard from
it's
women.
Making me nervous
like,
just thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard from women be like, "Oh, she's so good." I'm like, "Why do you say that? Look at her shoes." I'm like, you can pay for shoes. You can't pay for skill, but because she looks so amazing.
Yeah.
You think she's great. And I found so many times that I'm like so nervous, like sweating about asking someone to dance. And I'm like, I'll give myself 3 points, but I'll go and I'll ask and I'll invite her to dance. And then she's like, I'm a beginner, please like do like simple things.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like you're all like dressed up for the part and like killer.
You're like building it up in your head. You're building it up.
Yeah. And I have found out, like once I got used to approaching women for dancing, like women that I felt were way out of my league, and having I had positive and I had negative experiences, right? Like I had someone who asked me to dance And I said, look, I'm a beginner. And we took like 4 steps into the dance floor. And she looked at me, she's like, you should have said so before. On the dance floor. And I was like, well, it's fine if you don't want to dance with me. No, it's fine, we'll dance.
Yeah.
I'm like, you were a beginner once. Like, have some empathy,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not necessarily something wrong with you,
Yeah.
because it's important that we don't attribute that to us.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's just this person. Also, too, like, it's also really important. And I find that in this community, in the gaming community, and people who are not used to approaching women, is you can hit either extreme. So you can turn it inward toward hate of yourself, like, oh, I'm awkward. She didn't like me because I'm this, because I'm that. The other extreme, though, is putting it on the other person. Oh, that woman is blah, 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 blah. Women in general, listen, they don't understand. And like, you put the hate out on them, and that's not good either. Yeah. You have to have a balance and a recognition that maybe that person was just having a bad day.
Or you're not their type.
Or you're not their type. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's super important that you come at it with a more balanced understanding of, try not to put that on other people, and try not to put that back on yourself.
Yeah.
And just kind of come from the gray area of the actual facts of the situation. I approached this person, to dance. They said no. They, maybe it's true that someone can actually act rude and not be a rude person.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between that as well. So I just think that that's another part of what we need to learn in this community, is that it's not about hating ourselves. It's not about hating externally. Yeah. It's about coming at this from the gray area and understanding that there's something in between there.
Yeah. There are 2 things that I want to add about that. The first one is, what I used to explain that exact thing that you say is D&D. You roll the dice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's, even if you have +3 charisma, you can still roll a 1.
True.
It's still an option. And it has nothing to do with your level. It has nothing to do with anything.
Yep.
So you have no idea. Like, to me, the goal when I tell people go and get XP is the XP is based on what you do, because it's the only thing you have control over.
Sure.
Whether you have a positive within legal limits, like, let's just say, let's keep things legal.
Important,
if you keep everything legal, yes. If you keep things legal, then there shouldn't be anything that you're doing that's wrong. Therefore, the other person can react in a positive or negative way, which is completely outside of your control. Right? Yeah, you can do things to be more charming. You can smile. You can make eye contact. You can say something witty, funny. But maybe that person doesn't like witty and funny. Maybe that person likes something else. Like, one time I was in Berlin, and I was just walking through the Berlin Wall, and I saw like this kind of like, not golf, but like dark chick, really pretty. And I'm like, I want to talk to her. I don't know how, but I was on vacation. I'm like, I just want to talk to her. And she was like very serious with a really nice camera, taking photos of the wall. And I just kind of like walked close to her, and I said, isn't it weird how everyone's taking selfies, super happy and smiling, with the background of something that was really bad? She's like, yeah, I know. We ended up spending the whole day together, and we met the following day again.
Oh, wow. Wow.
But
that's awesome.
I wasn't going to open with a joke. It was not the right moment.
It wasn't the right moment. Yep.
We were both like, I sensed that we were both thinking of like, shit, like all the stuff that went through this thing. Like, I mean, we're both tourists, right? So it's like, we didn't live through it. We have but it's like families who were displaced, who were separated, people died. Like, oh my God, And then there's these people taking selfies for Instagram, And so that was my, let's say, opening line. You can call it whatever you want. That was my way of saying, okay, does this person want to talk to me? Which is the other thing that I want you to add. There's an author that really helped me, which is Robert Glover. Now, his books are quite sexist in that, like, women are like this, men are like that, and you have to, like, be a leader. It's not pickup stuff, but it is quite sexist. But he has a concept of testing for interest. He has also other concepts. I have a review of his book on my blog, but I wanted to mention the testing for interest. So basically, his idea is you have no control over the outcome. All you can do is say, does this person want to X? Do they want to chat with me? Do they want to go on a date? And the goal is to ask the question. The goal is to get the answer. Whatever the answer is. So in this case, I was like, does she want to talk about this? Yes. Great. Then I said, hey, I want to go see this church. Do you want to go? Yes. And then later, do you want to meet tomorrow? We can go to the museum. Yes. That's it. And the goal is to test for interest. The goal is not to get the outcome because you have no control over the outcome.
That's good. I like that. I like that thinking. That's good. Absolutely.
It's just rolling the dice. That's the way I see it.
The other thing that kind of stood out to me of that situation that you described when you talked to her is I think that many guys, including myself when I was in college, is that if you're approaching with the intention, you're kind of building it up in your head and you're like, oh my gosh, isn't she so attractive? Isn't she so attractive? And like, that's that's your intended purpose. It's more likely to create a approach situation that's nerve-wracking for both people.
Yeah.
What you did there is you measured the context of the situation, right? If you're at the gym, like, oh my gosh, squats suck, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's so much more impactful and powerful to have a genuine conversation about a shared interest than it is to go up to someone and neg them
on the street.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I absolutely hate that.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people asking, like, I have a gym crush. How do I approach her? And I'm like, well, how many people are you meeting at the gym? Because you can make friends in the gym. Nothing wrong with that. Oh, right. Nobody. Well, let's start there.
Yeah.
Once you get used to meeting everybody at the gym.
That's good.
Then you already, because there's no difference when you're talking to someone that you like. I mean, there's no difference in the technicalities, right? There's difference in how you feel. That's for sure.
Sure.
But it's like, A, you're going to know what to say because you've been saying that to 20 other people making friends. B, maybe one of the friends that you made before is talking to her and you can join in the conversation.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be, I go to the gym, I do my things, I see a crush, I go to talk to crush. That's how you get your membership revoked.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That's a surefire way to say, I got kicked out of my gym. Mm-hmm. But if you talk to everyone, if you become friends with everybody, then A, you got the skill, and B, there's no reason for that person to get defensive because, like, you're talking to everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. Important things to remember.
Awesome. Mike, thank you so much for coming. This has been amazing. And everybody else.
I really appreciate it.
And everybody else, if you have any questions for him, just let me know. Hopefully we can bring him back and I'll ask whatever you guys have. Just leave a message on YouTube. Send me an email at dm@rolltodate.com or my social media @rolltodate, pretty much anywhere. So hopefully we'll bring him back and we have more questions from you guys. Take care and see you next time.
Adios.